Same with Brock's channel. It's like they vanished into thin air.
Which is kind of your whole deal, so...
And you're certain they haven't simply stepped out? They have been known to engage in impromptu daring-do from time to time.
Without us? Can you think of even one place on Earth they wouldn't drag us along to? Hey, look at this! That is a giant centipede scar.
Besides, the X1's still in the hangar. And we had plans today.
Family plans! There was even talk of French toast. But there was none to be had.
What Goes Down Must Come Up is the 7th episode of Season 3. It first aired on July 13th, 2008, and was written by Jackson Public. In it, Dr. Venture ends up lost in the previously unexplored tunnels beneath the compound, where he meets up with a group of Rusty Venture fans turned cultists. Brock, in an effort to find Dr. Venture, ends up locked in a room with Paul Entman, a former colleague of Jonas Venture and current Tiny Guy. And Hank and Dean turn to the Order of the Triad to help them find their father and bodyguard. So Entman is obviously a reference to Ant-Man, but other than being tiny and his name, he very explicitly doesn't have anything in common with Ant-Man, lacking any super strength, ability to communicate with ants, or ability to grow and shrink at will. Dr. Orpheus created Alchemist and Jefferson Twilight action figures using Mego, Spock, and Falcon dolls respectively. If you're unfamiliar, Mego dolls were action figures from the 70s that had cloth clothing, and in my opinion, looked like total shit. The Venture Brothers put out a whole series of action figures in the style of Mego dolls, which you either appreciated as a fun throwback, or thought looked like total shit. As the original Team Venture hallucinates, we get a couple of quick references to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. First the blood, then the shot of Colonel Gentleman receiving oral sex. Originally, this episode was going to introduce a fourth member of the Triad, which Jackson and Doc talk about in the commentary.
Wanted to write for the Triad.
Actually, it was going to be an introduction of a fourth member.
Oh,
thank God I cut that out.
Thank God you cut that out, because I can barely deal with the three.
Did you break anything? How's your hip?
And he was real spacey too. He was a little tricky to write for.
There's a deleted scene where Orpheus talks to the Master, who takes on the form of magician Doug Henning. The character model was created and recycled as one of the cultists in the crowd in this scene. Also amongst the cultists, we have people dressed as David Bowie in his Ashes to Ashes clown costume, David Byrne in his Stop Making Sense suit, General Boy and Boogie Boy as seen represented in various Devo projects, and Trevor Horn, also known as...
Is that the guy from the Buggles?
More involved references include this guy, who's dressed like Keith Flint from Prodigy's Firestarter music video.
I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter. You're the fire starter, twisted fire starter.
And this crew, who are dressed like the people in the Art of Noise's music video Close to the Edit. Jackson says in the commentary that Firestarter sampled Close to the Edit, so he always imagined both bands living in some sort of shared universe. This is the first appearance of Paul Entman. Disappointingly, he'll only show up a couple more times throughout the series. Aside from that, I'm finding that Season 3 has a surprisingly small amount of references to past episodes. But one small thing I'm only pointing out because there's pretty much nothing else in this episode is the fact that Jefferson changes into Spider-Man pajama pants. These are Dean's pants, which he can be seen wearing going all the way back to Season 1's Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Magic. Later in the episode, Jefferson says,
No magic. You know what happened to me last time. I'll be damned if I'm walking out of here in Aquaman underoos.
referencing the pajamas that Hank always wears. This is an episode I was never crazy about. There's just a lot of crap going on at once, and it never really feels cohesive to me. Like you kind of get 4 half-baked ideas crammed into one episode, but each one probably could have been fleshed out and made into a cool episode on its own. One of my all-time least favorite jokes in the entire series is the gag in Careers in Science where Brock and Lieutenant Boldovich talk about docking the rocket in a very sexual way.
Wow, that's a big one.
I've got nothing to back this claim up, but I've always thought that Brock scolding Dr. Venture for doing pretty much the exact same thing at the beginning of this episode was a bit of an apology for the gag in Careers in Science.
All right, that's it. You promised no penetration jokes.
Oh, come on.
So I liked that. I also really like Paul Entman. I'm not really sure why, but I just always wanted more Paul Entman, and I've always kind of wanted a 1-to-1 scale Paul Entman tattoo. But the absolute best part of this episode is just getting to hang out with the Triad a little more. If there's any group of characters that deserves their own spin-off, it's the Order of the Triad. I love the Order of the Triad, and I love the Venture Brothers. As always, thank you for watching, and go Team Venture. Tune in next week for Tears of a Sea Cow. If you dug this video, share it with a friend, and if there was some huge glaring thing that I missed in this video, follow me on Instagram at Ventureverse Guide to see these videos a week early and offer your input before I upload the final product.